All right, it is 6:30 on June the 9th, 2025. We're going to go ahead and open the regular meeting of the McGregor City Council. If you would please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll go ahead and start this evening with public comments.
Looks like they're all for agenda items 10 and 11.
All right, so it looks like, Mr. Hale, you'd like to say something that doesn't have to do with the particular agenda item?
I do.
If you'll please stand at the microphone here, sir.
No.
Please, sir. Wait, we said this
You
one.
want-
Thank you, sir.
I don't want to be on camera yet. I'm hidden behind the mic, so it doesn't matter. Councilman, mayor, councilman, city management, want to tell you thank you for this support that y'all gave First Fridays downtown McGregor this weekend. If you didn't get a chance to go down there and miss something, you missed it. Everybody chipped in and helped. You know, everything from the council here supporting it to the city staff. Made sure all the potholes were filled so the cars didn't run into potholes. Cleaned it up. I really appreciate it, Chad. And we look forward to doing it next month. No car show next month, but there will not be any music either, due to the fact that it falls on July 4th. So most people are going to get down here and get out in order to go see the fireworks somewhere else. Just wanted to tell y'all thank y'all. Without y'all, we couldn't have done it.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to our consent agenda, consider approving minutes of the council meeting held on May 12th, 2025.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. That motion carries. Item number 2, discussion and possible action regarding approval of Walker Partners' proposal for the Phase 2 Stormwater Management Program development. Mr. Henson.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Before you is a scope and fee proposal for Phase 2 Stormwater Management Program development. As part of the previous census cycle, the U.S. Census Bureau determined that the city of McGregor is now part of what's considered a large urban area. I think just because of your proximity with Waco and some of the density of some of the new developments that have come into town and around town, you kind of got tagged by the U.S. Census Bureau. So as part of that, you now fall under TCEQ's what's called a small MS4, or a small municipal separate storm sewer system. There's a general permit for stormwater management that you fall under as part of the MS4. And so as part of that permit, you have to perform certain things throughout a 5-year period and report back to TCEQ that you're making efforts to improve your stormwater system and the quality of stormwater that's discharged from your system. So as part of that, this proposal is to help y'all set up your stormwater management program in order to meet those requirements of the permit. And I have a colleague here, Curtis Bidle. He is a expert in this. He'll be helping Walker Partners with this effort. So I'd be glad to give the floor to him, and he'd be more than happy to answer any questions you may have or provide some additional detail.
All right.
Curtis?
Develop the stormwater management programs for Colleen and Temple and Georgetown as well. So very familiar with the Phase 2 process.
Okay.
Really, our goal will be to identify a lot of activities the city's already doing that we can take credit for and try to minimize the cost on the citizens of McGregor.
Okay. Kevin, what is the recommendation of staff on this?
We have to do it. It's, they're very kindly working with us on the payment plan so we can get started now and keep the TCEQ folks from, yeah,
All right.
want to work with them.
Does council have any questions?
I do. So once this proposal is acknowledged and you start, that 5-year period starts then, correct?
Well, I think the 5-year period has already started back in August.
Thought so. So what's this?
It's a general permit for all of the Phase 2 cities across the state of Texas. And so it has a 5-year permit term. The reporting for that is on a calendar year. So the first permit year will be up in December, by the end of December.
Gotcha. So you'll submit the NOI when?
I believe the NOI has already been
It's already
submitted
been submitted.
to comply. So, but it's really a matter of identifying, and I think we've only got maybe 2 tasks in year 1 to do.
Gotcha.
So we put a lot of those off into 2, 3, and 4 as we can get more detail about that.
Gotcha.
But basically, it's a general permit that if the city of McGregor does the items in these 6 minimum control measures, you will be authorized to discharge under that general permit.
So how much time is left under that 5-year?
About 4.5 years now, and they renew it every 5 years, and
Right.
they might add things or tweak things or what have you, but it is renewed every 5 years.
Gotcha. And some of those, I was reading through them, there's some public outreach requirements in that 5 years. Is that
Yes, sir.
managed through Walker Partners or the city?
We would partner with the city to figure out how best to do that.
Gotcha.
We could provide drafts or different things, or
All the training requirements required from the TCQ are in the
yes, and there's
proposal
different
also?
opportunities for that.
Gotcha.
There's opportunities to partner with the city of Waco. Of course, Waco is a Phase 1 MS4. They were a larger city back when that first came out in the early 90s. So,
Gotcha.
but some of their activities you could, probably piggyback and do that less expensive than, doing it by yourselves. It will require a illicit discharge detection and elimination ordinance, which would be for you guys to pass a ordinance prohibiting the discharge of stormwater to your MS4 system. And then, to identify any place where there might be cross connections, where maybe somebody has, plumbed their roof drains into the sanitary sewer. And, if those are found, then be able to eliminate those. So that's really probably the largest requirement. I think that has to be in place by the end of year 2.
Gotcha. And we were probably operating under one of those 2 waiver options, I assume?
Previously, you guys were not regulated MS4 because you didn't have the urbanized area, which is 1,000 people per square mile connected to a mass of over 50,000. So y'all had the density, you just weren't connected to the mass of 50,000. But in the 2020 census, there's been enough development along 84 that unfortunately you got connected in the 2020 census to Waco's mass of over 50.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And so that's why you became an MS4 regulated city.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Anyone else? All right, well, thank you, gentlemen. At this time, I'll entertain a motion from the floor, or from the dais.
I make a motion to approve the action recording approval of Walker Partners proposal for the Phase 2 stormwater management program development.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. That motion carries. Item number 3, discussion and possible action regarding bid award for the Bewley Park Tennis Courts Reconstruction Project as recommended by Walker Partners. Are you taking Kyle's place to speak on this one?
Yes, sir, I will. So on, I guess last week, June 4th, we opened 4 competitive sealed proposals for the Bewley Park Tennis Court Reconstruction Project. Out of those 4, Choice Builders was the low bidder. We also evaluated them, as we have been on the previous couple of projects, on their performance as a company, the different projects that they've done in the past. We asked them to provide information on the superintendent that will be overseeing the project and their resume. So we evaluated all 4 companies on a couple of different things, not just price. But at the end of the day, Choice Builders ended up being receiving the highest score. We at Walker Partners have worked with Choice Builders, not as a prime contractor, but as a subcontractor on a few projects. We've felt like they've been good to work with. The projects have been successful. And I will say out of all the bidders, majority of their projects were related to parks. They have done some sport courts in the past. And so we felt like that they were the most qualified for this job. So that is our recommendation this evening, is to award the project to Choice Builders.
All right. Does council have any questions for Mr. Henson? We've seen these qualified weighted proposals several times in the past, and I think we all know how they are figured out. So I think we can feel comfortable with looking at the weighted proposal and seeing that it's 100% correct.
They were the low bid, correct?
Correct. They were the low bidder as well.
All right. If there's no questions from council, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we accept, that we did the award for Bewley Park Tennis Court Reconstruction Project as recommended by Walker Partners to Choice Builders LLC for the amount of $661,609.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. That motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
It's a great thing.
All right, item number 4, hold public hearing regarding application for rezoning of unaddressed plus or minus 154.65 acres, approximately 1770 feet west of Cotton Belt Parkway on the south side of US 84, property IDs 136269 and 374212. Hammock RP A 1084.25 acres. Jocks Ill A 480, 78.758 acres. Total 78.783 acres, and the Jocks IL acres 75.873. All right. That's a mouthful, it's not even the longest one.
Council P and Z held we got the minutes for you so that you'd see more of what happened there. These are unapproved minutes, but it'll give you an idea of the discussion. It was good for Brian to get that out so we could share that before he went to DC, and I pray for him while he's in DC this week. It's not a plat at this time, it's just a I do pray for him while he's in DC. I saw him back. It's just the rezoning request. You'll have an ordinance that follows this for the actual rezoning. But the public hearing, they talked about a lot of stuff. We originally encouraged them to do a planned use development, and they chose to, rather than do that, just go ahead and ask for straight rezoning, because a big chunk of the property you see in yellow, they left at R10, which is important to me anyway. The pink to the left side middle is, has to be rezoned for multifamily, and the top is commercial and something, mostly business commercial, I think. Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. I did not see any negative comments throughout the public hearing. You may recall, this is number 2 and 3 phases of the original parks. So it's changing up quite a bit on that front side and the multifamily side, although that's probably a pretty good position for the multifamily. Water's good across the back end with a 16-inch line. It was always planned for this. Wastewater, we may need to have some conversations about when the time comes, and we'll bring that up and talk about it tonight. We can visit with Jacob. It's something he's been looking at. The green property you see along the bottom is the property owned at this time by the McGregor Economic Development Corporation that was designed to be parkland. And the conversation with the developer about that is in detail is yet to be had. That's forthcoming. Let's see, anything else? Neighborhood connectivity, obviously there's a road that's shared into phase 1. That road will not be used for construction access to this facility, as I understand it. Go ahead if you're ready to.
No.
You know, I thought you were getting up to say something. Save me if you see I need saving. Had one call from Ms. Bowen, 905 Dublin, concerned about heavy traffic coming down Edinburgh, and not in favor of the multifamily near her house. Staff stated there'd be 100 acres between her and the proposed multifamily. She seemed okay with that. Can't speak for her, obviously. Need for housing due to industrial park interest. We'll be talking about that. Industrial park is very interesting right now. We'll talk about a lot of that in executive session. We have 9 prospects looking at MIP right now. Some of them are quite large. Full-time employment upwards of 3,900 people if everything came. Of course, we don't know that yet.
Okay, so at this point,
Those are the kind of plans we need to make.
let's go ahead and open the public hearing at 6:48. Is there anybody here to speak on this?
This one?
Yes, sir. Please identify yourself and
Yes, sir. My name's Greg Gleim. I'm with Cromwell Commercial, 510 North Valley Mills Drive, and just here to offer any comments or answer any questions that you may have.
all right. Well, we will go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:48 and move on to the next agenda item, which is actually discussion and possible action regarding the application for rezoning of unaddressed 154.65 acres, approximately 1,770 feet west of Cotton Belt Parkway on the south side of US 84. Public IDs 136-269 and 374-212. So, does council have any questions?
On track D, Kevin, from R10 to R72, is there any concerns on density?
Well, there's always concerns on density. It is denser than what the original plan was, but to be honest, that many acres probably should have more choices of housing. We're down to kind of like 2 choices of housing here, and that's not much of anything either way. We have an apartment complex that you zoned for that got tripped up by interest rates. That looks like it's trying to break loose again. The concern with density is whether you can serve water and wastewater, and we can serve the water. The wastewater is going to have some other attention. And we bought all the excess capacity that Waco had in the line that they brought out to Boslow. Yeah, line train. And, that's what we've got. I think we end up 40% of that line,
40, yes, sir.
40% of that line. And, so that's an expense we've already endured. So we've got a pretty good amount there, but that's an engineering and a math question, so we gotta make sure we dot that I and cross that T. They can get started, but at some point through this facility, my understanding, numbers gonna dictate some more attention to sewer.
Thank you.
What I wanted, on the R10 zoning, it was all zoned R10 originally, right?
Correct.
And so we're going R10 to general commercial for part of it, in the purple, I guess?
Correct.
And then R10 to general commercial is another, and then, so the R10 to multifamily, and then the R10 to 7.2, is any of it gonna be?
You know, I misunderstood, so it is 7.2.
So there's no R10 left in this
No R10
project?
less.
I think this multifamily originally was up by the road, wasn't it, early on? But there was some opposition to
He
that.
never actually, he proposed that in a preliminary and then withdrew it that night. And it was actually quite a bit smaller than that. And that wasn't the original, that was the second owner that proposed that.
Is there any of those same concerns on?
Hmm?
Is there any of the same concerns with this layout here?
This is pretty well located for multifamily. The original was gonna be, townhomes and a gated entry. I say not the original second owner's proposal for a small piece of multifamily. And he was also looking at general commercial, but quite a bit smaller piece. And there's a reason he doesn't own it anymore, so.
Understood, thank you.
I'm unhappy part that we don't have R10 in this and it's R7.2.
Yeah,
It's a two-story.
That might be
No,
the type of
this
houses
is
that
train right here,
people
the church is right
need to
here.
buy on smaller lots.
Where the tree line is.
As long as we can,
The lift station.
meet all the
Yeah.
water and wastewater.
Well, actually, the first part of the park's
And if this is just not platted, it's just.
Plat will be coming,
All right.
or I should say plats. I'm sure they'll come in different phases.
Does anybody have any more questions for staff? All right, well, I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the application for rezoning of the unaddressed 154.65 acres, approximately 1,770 feet west of Cotton Belt Parkway on the south side of US 84, PID 136.269 and 374.212, Hammocks RP, is that enough?
That's good, that's enough. You got the property IDs in there?
A lot to read.
All right, we have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay? That motion carries. All right. On to number 6, hold a public hearing regarding ordinance O-10-2025, an ordinance of the city of McGregor, Texas, amending the zoning district boundaries of the zoning district map of the city of McGregor, Texas concerning certain parcels or tracts of land identified as being tax parcels, property ID 136269 and 374212, and more generally located at 31101 West US Highway 84 within the corporate limits of the city of McGregor, Texas, heretofore zoned R10 single-family residential shall henceforth be zoned R-7.2 single-family residential and multifamily residential and GC general commercial. So this is an ordinance for what we just voted to rezone.
Normally, you'd see this at another meeting, but this is carried on long enough that the ordinance was already prepared, so you get to go ahead and finish up tonight.
Okay, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing at 6:55, if anybody would like to speak on that. Okay, hearing no one, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:55, and I have to read all that all over again with the next agenda item. Discussion and possible action regarding ordinance O-10-2025, an ordinance of the city of McGregor, Texas, amending the zoning district boundaries of the zoning district map of the city of McGregor, Texas, concerning certain parcels or tracts of land identified as being tax parcels PID 136269 and 374212, and more generally located at 31101 West US Highway 84 within the corporate limits of the city of McGregor, Texas, heretofore zoned R10, single-family residential shall henceforth be zoned R7.2, single-family residential, MF, multifamily residential, and GC, general commercial. Okay, so, like I said, that's what we just went over. And if council doesn't have any other questions, I don't know if we already voted to approve. I will entertain a motion by ordinance number.
I make a motion, we approve ordinance 0-10-2025.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. That motion carries. Move on to item number 8. Hold a public hearing regarding application for preliminary plat for McGregor Trails residential development known as Barrett M plus or minus 81.955 acres located in the city of McGregor, McLennan County, Texas. Property ID 135156. It is 6:57. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. And Kevin, would you like to present that to us?
You see up on the wall, the preliminary plat as they have filed. This piece of ground has been zoned R72 forever. One of the first conversations I had when I moved here was with Mr. Joe Pascal. He had purchased this years and years ago at some point when it became, what's the word I'm looking for? Surplus property for the naval weapons. And he tried to get partners to go in and do a housing development there. On the far, let's see, southern side, there had been military housing before. And so it was annexed, well, no, it was already annexed. No, it was annexed. We annexed it when we did those several annexations to clean up the borders. And but it was already established at R7200. So there you have it. This is their preliminary plat. It meets all the guidelines. You had anything about it that you want to add?
No, sir.
They're looking, I believe, at a park grant to put some type of a trail and open space area underneath the Brazos power lines that go across the front of it, all down through there, which would be a walking trail to the new junior high. And so I think Cassie and Brian have been working on that a little bit.
Texas Parks and Wildlife, yes, sir.
So some good looking things here. That's a piece of ground that's been meant for housing in this town for a long time, and it's had some issues, as they all do, but it's come through. It also has a pretty good sized floodplain on the back end of it. I'm not sure what the plans are for that. I think maybe just remain natural, but you never know. You might get a grant for it too.
Okay, is there anybody here to speak on this particular agenda item? We'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:59. Move on to agenda item 9, which is discussion and possible action regarding application for preliminary plat for McGregor Trails residential development known as Barrett M plus or minus 81.955 acres located in the city of McGregor, McLennan County, Texas, property ID 135156.
For reference, the new nursing home is corner of this piece of property. It goes west and north from there. Sixth dead ends into it.
Well, there was some discussion on the size of the homes. Do we know what that was?
I do not. It's R 7200, so
So,
How many, houses is that?
198.
190 something.
198.
All right, does council have any questions for staff?
No, I mean, I was just wondering the same question as Alex.
All right, well, I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the application for the preliminary plat for McGregor Trails Residential Development known as Bartlett M. That good enough?
Yes. Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. That motion carries. And now on to the next one that I'm sure everybody's here for. Agenda item number 10, hold a public hearing regarding application for conceptual plan for an unnamed planned use development located in the city of McGregor, McLennan County, Texas, being all of Brewster BF plus or minus 112.88 acres, property ID 135022. Kevin, if you'd like to present that to us, please, I'll go ahead and.
Council,
since you're done.
this was previously known as the Hahn property. As you recall, we had a large lot subdivision that was laid in there, half acre or so. For the most part, that family basically has it up for sale. It's being looked at. This is the concept. That strip down on the south end, I believe, is looking at commercial. And then is it R6 for the rest of it, or R72? You remember? 72. 72? Yes, sir. So the rest of the northern piece would be R72. And that is concept. And it has or will have some water and wastewater service issues that will have to be worked through. And I think there's enough for how many units to start with? The commercial plus a few houses?
I mean, a total of, let's see, 90 on, yeah, I was gonna say 30.
About 30, 28 or
about
30 left?
Yeah, or about 30, yeah.
About 30 connections. And then
I think water is okay.
those answers gotta be found, mostly a sewer issue. And this is a wastewater issue that impacts the whole north side. We've got the capacity in what I call the new lift station that's been here 14 years. But it's after it pumps over and dumps into the gravity and goes to the Spring
Valley Lift Station.
Spring Valley Lift Station. That gravity line and the Spring Valley Lift Station all have to have some major work. And that's all out there in our projects, but it's not funded. It's one of the projects that TERS number 2 will possibly fund someday, but we're gonna have to have some serious development now. TERS number 2 has 9 points now, call it, in there, so all those things will work together, but still pretty big reach. But
Well,
this gives them the idea of what they think you might want to do and go along with.
All right, at this time, at 7:05, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. If anybody would like to step up and speak on these, please do. Please just step up and identify yourself.
Center microphone, please.
Oh, center?
Yes, please.
Oh, goodness.
Good evening. My name is Connie Smallreedy. I am a retired teacher in McGregor ISD for 34 years, but my husband, Rodney, and I farm a great deal of land around McGregor. This is really scary to me because we're losing our livelihood, but we know it's going to happen, and we just have to deal with it. I'm just going to read what I wrote, and it concerns a lot of this, and I'm sure Boyd and Sheila are going to piggyback off of some of the issues that we all know with this property. We first need to be concerned with the plat formation of the entire property. Too many houses closer together and many of them impacting flood ranges. The plat showed at the development meeting was not what the citizens were given out in the mail for them to look at and review. So that's a concern of ours. It's really different than what was given to the people and the citizens. So I think we need to balance that out, and they need to get the correct information. No retention pond or engineer studies are going to create a difference than what your farmers and your people that lived on this land. Cases of waterways that produce the best natural flows of the land are going to be taken with homes, and it will flood. It flooded last May because it was on my retirement party, and people could not get down 317 because it was so bad. And Boyd and Debbie Herring had issues getting out of their own driveway. So we need to be concerned with that if you're putting homes in there and properties, it's going to be devastating for some of them. And we don't want that. The concern with the contractors on the property before that was back there, they ran pipes across North Main, and of course they had to tear up North Main. North Main is not fixed correctly after they did that. It's horrible and it needs to be fixed. But on my end, the contractors were parking in my field where my hay is. I went by several times. I was met with a lot of disdain. And I don't know if it was because I am a lady, and I got out and I told them, but that is our property. That's our coastal hay. That's how we make our living. They eventually moved off. I'd come back. They were there again. I know it looks like a field of nothing. I love nothing. But it is our livelihood and our hay crop. So that is a concern for me. When they put the pipe in, they dug rocks out, and they put them all in our field, and my hay cutter runs over them. My hay cutter gets broke. It's very expensive. They put metal out in the middle. They did all kinds of things. So I removed all that, and I put it in the waterway. And the city or the contractor that's responsible for that needs to come pick it up, because the city can't even do their job with mowing it because there's metal and there's rocks all in it. So it's a major hazard that needs to be picked up. Whoever the contractor is, I don't know. But that's a serious note that needs to be taken care of. Also, growing concern of the traffic. You've got all this traffic leading out into North Main. That's a serious problem already. We can't even get out in the mornings to go to work because everybody's hitting North Main and 317. Even if you went around to the park, and now you're adding hundreds of houses on top of that, and that we're all feeding to that one spot. And I know that the last time when the Hans owned it, and they still own it, it's in limbo right now, they were looking at putting something on 3047 coming out on 317. TxDOT said no. So before we need to do this, we need to have TxDOT come in and run some traffic studies. Those usually take 2 or 3 years to get a correct study done. Or at least that's what we were told last year, that they did not want to do a 3047 drive-through there. So that's another concern, is all the traffic coming in and out and leading down to one thing. And it's something that's gonna have to be addressed, and you just can't have all this and one way in, one way out. It doesn't work. So what I'm asking, please consider slowing our growth down and not allowing it all at once. Our citizens deserve sound decisions backed by evidence and understanding. We know we have to grow, but let's do it in a very timely and not do it all at once. It is the council's job to make sound decisions, and as we grow, we get more crime, less protections from our fire and our police services. So let's make McGregor our small town, which we all love. I've been here for 35 years. My husband's been here for 58, with the safety of the citizens in mind. Their properties and their livelihoods depend on us. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to get up and speak?
Good evening, my name is Boyd Hearing, and I live on the property just to the north of the proposed or conceptual plan here. And as Connie said, we'll be piggybacking off of some of the things that she said. But this was all discussed about 3 years ago when the Hans brought this to the city council and everything was looked at that time. And I believe it was Walker Brothers did the study on the water runoff and so forth, and they did come up with some ideas. But one thing, I'm not an engineer, and I don't know all the technicalities that goes through it, but I am a person who has watched this property and land over the last 50 years and seen what it can do. So in this proposed or conceptual plan, I think there's about 60 acres, if I'm not mistaken, that's being involved in the actual construction of the houses. So somebody can correct me if I'm off of that, but around 60 acres. Remaining portion down here on the south side devoted commercial, detention pond, and so forth. So when the Walker Brothers did their study or whatever, the detention pond was on the 317 side, and now it's on the North Main side, if I'm understanding correctly. Going back up, if you can see the shaded area, the dark gray is one side, and then you see a light gray side. There is a waterway that runs from the north to the south, and you can actually see where it comes out on 317. So up above the north property line there is about 100 acres. So in this area, we're talking about 100 acres that I have and 100 acres overall in this project down here, about 200 acres. So all the water that's coming down here pretty much comes off the north side of this project and then what they have. And it funnels from the west, it funnels to the waterway. From the east, it funnels down into this waterway, and now we see houses sitting on top of that waterway. And I know these issues would be addressed, I think. But to come back with a concept or a conceptual plan that is so radically different than what the city agreed to 3 years ago, I was like, when I first saw it at the meeting, as Connie said, we didn't get this in the mail. We got what the project prior had been approved. And when we saw this, I went, you got to be kidding. Houses on top of the waterway. And the other thing that I don't know if the was taken into consideration, but on the far west side of this, there is a significant amount of water that comes through where these houses are. And I'm sure this will be addressed in a second, but there's been berms put up to divert the water from going into the houses, and it rolls around and comes back down into the waterway here. So what we're talking about doing here, the water that comes off this 100 acres that I have to the north, along with the water that's down here, comes through here. If we take this 60 acres, that's roughly 30% of that 200 acres. And now you put streets on it, put houses on it. That's 30% less land for absorption of the water. So now just out of 200 acres, we're taking 30% of that, and it's going to just increase the amount of water coming through here. So as Connie said last year, the people who lived on Goliad and Alamo and so forth, some of those houses were impacted significantly as it is now. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. We saw it just as it is now. So the people that live on Houston and Goliad and Crockett, I would be very concerned about what that's going to do as far as the water flow. The other concern I have in this concept, if there were houses on that waterway, as we see in this picture, that's going to cause water possibly to back up onto my property. What it's going to do, I don't know. It may not happen in 10 or 20 years, but it will happen, just as we saw last May before last on there. So if you could be in the middle of this property on the north side and look south at the elevation, you'll see it all coming, draining down into this waterway right here. And then if you were to look at this down here below in this detention pond that they have proposed, as the water comes down, it flows to the east, goes under 317 in that way. So that's why I'm assuming the Walker Brothers 3 years ago approved the detention pond on the 317 side. The detention pond now is showing on the North Main side, and it's higher elevation than on the 317 side. So I don't know how that water is going to flow up. But even if that was a detention pond, I think last year it would have been overwhelmed with the amount of water that comes through just this particular area. So it's a significant issue. When the Hahn brothers, their proposal, I wasn't concerned about water backing up, but I am now if this were to go through. So again, I was very surprised that they brought this plan back compared to what was agreed upon 3 years ago, okay? So the water is one thing. The other thing is the amount of traffic coming through there. And I know last week in the zoning commission, the gentleman was going to have a meeting with TxDOT. I think it was Thursday. I don't know what the results of that were, to revisit all of this. The road coming through at New Windsor Parkway, there's going to be the road coming through there. Whether there's going to be turning lanes, signal lights, whatever, I don't know what they were going to approve. But whatever they do there, if they said, okay, we're going to put a signal light in there, if there needs a signal light at New Windsor Parkway, they would definitely need one at North Main 317, because it's going to have more of a volume of traffic from the houses coming out the development now and coming here. And that's a unique intersection with the 5 points coming together, 317 and the one coming out of the park and Cemetery Road, and then one off of North Main. I don't know how you'd have a traffic light to, I hadn't seen that before. So you've got issues on the traffic. If you're coming from Crawford or from north and you come to that intersection at 84 at 7:30 in the morning, right now today you may wait 3 or 4 times for that signal light to change. A glaring problem right now today is the turning lane. If you're wanting to go to Waco, I think that turning lane will hold about 3 or 4 cars, and that's about it. So what people will do, they get impatient, if there's 20 cars lined up on 317 and they want to turn left, they'll cross into the northbound lane there trying to get to that turning lane. So that's where we are right now. So, you know, we've known this is going to happen, or possibly going to happen. We've had 3 years since then, and it just TxDOT, and I'm not saying nothing's been done on it, but TxDOT is, if you dealt with them, they're notorious about taking their time about getting anything done. If you want them to do a study, well, you all know what I'm talking about on that. So when we talk about this kind of volume coming in, you know, things need to be done. The water situation, the people that live on the east side of 317, how it's going to impact them on down the road. And it will happen again. We know that, especially based on this plan right here. So with that, that's my comments on it and my concerns. I hope the city council has the same concerns, especially for these people on the east side of 317 and their traffic situation.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd.
Thank you.
Please do.
Hi, I'm Sheila Hain. It leaves me with the same comments that the other two have shared with you, and it's the same comments we expressed when the Hines and we went through this whole process. My parents actually live on the last house where North Main turns to Old Crawford Highway, where the city and the county ends. They have that property. And as Boyd was saying, that there's berms across their whole back property. And we worked with the farmer, Rodney, and everybody to get those berms there so their property wouldn't constantly flood from the runoff from all of that. That subdivision comes in, those berms are gonna go away. Okay, what kind of subdivision of this caliber is going to have berms? So we're worried about how that water is not going to flood them and cause perpetual water problems for them, especially since how when the Hans had it, the lots were bigger. There was way less houses. Now we have more than almost tripled, I think. I think originally was 100 and some odd homes in this part of the phase. And now we're, what, 300 is I think what we talked about the other night. Don't quote me on numbers, but it's way, way more. So we're, like you said, we're taking away that land absorption. We're creating a bigger water problem. I live on Red Oak, and so I'm concerned about the traffic on North Main because even, like I said, we know growth is inevitable. We do need the growth. But even right now, when I turn coming home off of 317 to either take the Park Road or to take North Main, I pray every day that I don't get rear-ended because there is so much traffic, they don't slow down, and we're gonna add the current subdivision that is fixing to open up for development between Indian Trails and the old AMA area, and then we're adding this. And even if we put entrances and stuff on 317, not everyone is gonna take that. North Main cannot handle and absorb that much traffic, especially we already know, everybody agrees, what the traffic is like at the intersection. It backs up past the bridge. It's a problem. And so we need to get everything ironed out with TxDOT, the state, on what we're gonna do for safety before we approve all of these homes coming in. So water, traffic, it's been said, like I said, it was discussed at the meeting the other night. But my other concern was mentioned when this was sent out to us about the conceptual. This one doesn't even have the Han project on it. It's just the lot. And so you want your citizens to express concern and have input. What do we have an input on? Nowhere here does it show commercial. Nowhere does it show. It just outlines, here's farmland, here's what we're talking about. So I don't know the whole process because I know this is like the beginning phases of the conception. But if you want people to speak on it, you have to give them something to speak on because nowhere is commercial addressed.
Absolutely.
And how are you addressing the safety, again, off of 317? They talked about those commercials would only come access off of 317. Where's the turning lane for that? You put commercial there now without that? Do you know how many accidents are going to be with traffic stop turning into a commercial center? You have a huge problem, a huge safety problem. But like I said, more concerning is not getting the correct information out to your people. So appreciate your time.
Thank you. All right, is any other public here to speak?
Can I speak?
Yes, sir.
My name's Jason Hassenstab. I'm representing the group that's looking to buy the Han property here. We did hear some of these concerns at the P&Z last week, so I just wanted to kind of touch on some things. So we do understand the concept that was gone through a few years ago with the Han brothers. We're really basing a lot of what you see up here and emphasis on conceptual. I understand the concerns about how we show houses running through there. All that will be addressed with Walker Partners and Republic Engineering in the design review process, of course. But I do understand the concerns. I just want to emphasize the reason that we're looking at a different plan than what the Han brothers got approved is because we're looking at the growth metrics that are being provided, and we're looking at the jobs that are coming to McGregor, and we're evaluating those incomes and what's affordable and what those incomes can afford. And so that's why we're looking at a plan like this where we're doing 7,200 square foot lots. As far as the commercial, that's really a commercial reserve. It's not going to be developed for many, many years until more rooftops are built in McGregor over the next 5, 10, or even more. years. So the only thing that we certainly noted was potentially putting a daycare, because that's been an express need for the city. So that might be an early thing that happens in the commercial section, but for the most part, the commercial is a reserve. Hence the reason it's labeled that is it's a reserve, and it'll be developed many years from now at the end of the day. So, but yeah, that's just what I just want to say. I do understand the concerns, and we would always intend to address those concerns as we're working through design development. So,
All right.
thank you.
All right, at this time, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:26 and move on to item 11, which is discussion and possible action. Discussion and possible recommendation regarding application for conceptual plan for an unnamed planned use development located in the city of McGregor, McLennan County, Texas, being Olive Brewster VF plus or minus 112.88 acres, property ID 135022. Okay, so council, we have heard plenty of concerns from our citizens, and the Planning and Zoning Commission made the motion to recommend the conceptual plan for approval with significant study of the drainage needed to be completed, and there needs to be a second entrance on 317 added and a traffic study. That's the motion that was made, that's what was seconded, and that was what was recommended by Planning and Zoning. If you have any questions for anybody, now would be a good time to ask them.
So when we first had looked at this, they were gonna be acre properties, am I?
Half acre.
Half acres?
Yes.
Okay, and so now they're proposing, I didn't catch the square footage.
7,200 foot.
Yeah, that's right, 7,200.
It's almost a third of the original plan.
Yeah. Alex, did you have this?
That was one of my questions. So the purple outline is the proposed GC, and then the blue is the retention pond? Is that-
Yes, sir, that's correct. And the total commercial reserve is about 15 acres, and the total detention is about 15 acres.
I believe back when we did this too, I know a traffic study was mentioned.
It was done.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, like, I thought we had, can you refresh everyone's
Well, it
memory
was
on that?
done for a lot fewer lots. It'll have to be redone, and they understand that.
Yeah,
It'll be
it'd have to be redone.
And, you know, a good traffic study on this is probably gonna recommend something that's already pretty obvious, which is a second entrance somewhere onto 317.
I agree.
Pull that traffic off Main. The drainage will have to be engineered. You know, you really, for over 40 years that I know of, you've not been allowed to retain drainage water on somebody else or increase the outflow from your property. That's been law for as long as I've been in this business nearly. And that will have to occur or it won't happen.
Agreed.
As far as a concept plan, I don't know that they're planning on building over drainage unless they work miracles I don't know about, but, you know, it's a concept. And they're here to find out if you're comfortable with the concept, if they can make the engineering and the numbers work correctly. There is a drainage problem that exists out there now. We began since when the Hans weren't able to get started, we went to TxDOT and had several discussions about how to deal with that drainage. I looked at that while it was ongoing. I think I know, but I'm not an engineer, so you gotta wait. That solution will possibly be done as a stopgap, but anything that happens out there is gonna have to be dealt with this engineering as well. Anytime you go in and engineer draining, you gotta engineer just about everything in the basin to make sure it still works and works hopefully better. A lot of siltation comes off that field every time you have that kind of a flood, and that siltation fills that bar ditch and creates a lot of problems. I think Angela almost got water in her house across 317 for this last one.
I was gonna say, I know that he mentioned Goliad in those areas. I was gonna ask what that looked like for them too. I mean, these are all concerns, you know, that we need to think about too, just in the future in that area as well.
Well, they'll have it engineered and our engineers will look over that. The hope is to actually make it better for everybody in the end. If not, then why would you do it?
So we're the same group that's just finishing up Adeline Crossing that's just nearby here. So we'll be delivering lots to Stylecraft here in the next few weeks. But yeah, just to kind of emphasize that point, we worked with Republic Engineering, was our engineer, did the design, and then Walker Partners checks that and make sure that everything's on the up and up. So the same thing would happen here. And as Kevin said, I mean, we can't push water onto neighboring properties. That's part of the design process. So
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, I know that was a concern from one of the citizens, you know, they said they.
And rightly
it's up
so.
Right now,
Yeah.
so like, what would you guys do too to help those neighboring homes with that flow?
I mean, that's where the design is going to look at the entirety of the property, where the flows are, the existing grades. And I mean, the detention may not end up where that triangle is shown. I mean, I know the note was, and we've seen the Hahn Brothers plan as well. I mean, as it evolves through that process, things are going to shift around and to meet the requirements and make sure we're not putting a burden on neighboring property. So.
It seems that you're not able to keep from putting a burden on others' property. Will y'all consider changing the conceptual plan of what y'all are wanting to build? I'm all for growth, but I am concerned about, again, we're losing the R20 for bigger homes, and it seems like we are getting a lot of 7.2 residential, and there's not the 10, the R10 that we're looking at, and we lost the R20, and you know, and that's a lot of homes there. That's a lot of other homes that we've just talked about on another part of town, and I know all the engineering you can do, but sometimes water goes where water wants to go. You know, that's just a fact. And then, well, doesn't mean how well engineering's done. If water wants to go somewhere, you know, you can't stop it if there's flooding issues. I was wondering too, on the letters that were sent out to the property owners, that was the latest one that they got, was
Yes,
this
what was
was the
shown,
one.
and not the,
This was the one that said for the building, zoning and building for last Monday, Tuesday, whichever. That's what this
okay.
was, with nothing on it.
Okay. And I'm just concerned, and then the traffic issues is another thing. When you mentioned daycare, I thought, with the traffic issues that are gonna be out there, you know, there's a lot of things that are gonna have to be determined before I feel comfortable for this project.
I agree too. I got one last question for you. I think there's a lot of concerns, Bonnie. I echo what you're saying. I think around the wastewater issue. If we're going to rebuild the Spring Valley lift station, right, there's a pretty high price on that at the current market. Who incurs that cost?
Well, it would be partially TERS, partially them, and it's the way the TERS work. It takes the differential between what the property was worth and what it is worth now, and those new taxes. I think we did that as a 50-50, or did we do 75-25? Anyway, major portion of that goes into the TERS in order to have the capacity to do whatever our share would be. And you're a ways from that unless there's some things that occur in the TERS quick enough to, you know, build money up.
So that's, I guess to say the least, that's a pretty big unknown right now.
Well, yeah, now the developer can always front cost, and then the TERS can actually be put in place to pay the developer back. But I don't know that the development this size would want to do, or would be able to do that much for that length of time. That's
Well,
just, again, you don't know what you're gonna have until it gets started. And they've got 30 connections, that's all they got until that's solved, until that problem can be addressed.
And just we went through a very quick timeline last week with the P&Z. So right now, like I said, we're going to be delivering lots in Adeline Crossing here in the next few weeks. And we don't deliver the last round of lots. That's 107 lots until June of 27, so 2 years from now. So it's our intent that lots in this don't deliver until a quarter thereafter. So new homes wouldn't even be built. And so we've got a couple of years, to say the least, to figure out exactly what Kevin's talking about and work with Walker Partners, the city, to figure out the upgrades or, you know, how we go about that, because there won't actually be homes there for till 2028, because we'd be delivering lots in late 27. So, and even thereafter, you're talking about 15 homes a quarter, give or take. So the total build out's not done for six years, is the way this is planned out right now. Give or take, depending on what the final count is. And it kind of to address your question, Bonnie, is that kind of going back to the lot size. The bigger lot size would command a larger price, you know, more land, more price. So, like I said, it for us it was just looking at what jobs are coming, what incomes those jobs would be, and what they can afford. And that's how we arrived at the 7,200. No other reason, but that's the main reason, just so you understand where we were coming from.
Yeah, because I know when the other plan was shown to us, that was kind of something that I had liked. Because again, you know, we just said okay to one that's, you know, doing something different out here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think bigger lots. Again, just to provide a different type of housing option for our residents would be great. And that's just you know, one of my concerns or something that I'd like to see out there.
I'd like to see some bigger homes and not just all 7.2 limitations.
This is right off the highway, a lot of houses right off. The last ones.
No, this is a concept plan, zoning and plating all comes later.
Yeah, we're asking if we can solve those concerns, the drainage, the traffic, we just want that consideration. That's what we're asking for. That, you know, we are proposing 7,200 because that's what we think makes the most sense for the data that we have. But that's really what we're asking for, is if we can solve those concerns, which we would intend to do, would we get fair consideration to go to 72 or some combo thereafter if that's what the case is. So.
All right.
So,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Unless council has any more questions,
You got a bunch more kisses this big.
I will entertain a motion, and I would recommend in a motion that you voice the concerns that our constituents have raised.
I'm glad the Adeline Crossing is there. I'm glad y'all are there.
Thank you.
So would anybody like to take a crack at it?
I make a motion, we approve the application for the conceptual plan for an unnamed plan using development located in the city of McGregor, McLennan County, being all of Brewster BF, 112.88 acres. We also want them to be sure that they look for the drainage that needs to be completed, and there needs to be a second entrance on Highway 317, and add a traffic study price second in the motion. Does that make sense?
I think it made sense.
Okay.
All right, so there is a motion. Do we have a second to approve the conceptual plan with the concerns being addressed?
No.
Going once, going twice. And that motion dies on the vine without a second. Moving on to item 12. Discussion and possible action regarding resolution R-11-2025, a resolution supporting the City of McGregor's application to the Texas Department of Transportation's 2025 Transportation Alternatives Set Aside Call for Projects.
Please.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, council, before you is a resolution to submit applications for two separate projects. The first being what I've called the campus-to-campus shared use path, which is basically just to an extent a glorified sidewalk that would connect the existing school campuses with the new one that's on the other side of Johnson Drive. And so as part of that, it's an application to TxDOT for additional funding to help fund that project. Currently going through that process with TxDOT on another project, the 317 pedestrian improvements at 3rd and 6th Street, which I think if y'all remember a couple of months ago, we declined all the bids for that. We're gonna be going out for rebid here within the next couple of months. But same process. This resolution is part of the detailed application that has to be submitted. And then the other project is sidewalk improvements along 6th Street. I'm sure as y'all are all aware, there's kind of a broken hodgepodge of sidewalk along 6th Street from 317 to Johnson Drive. And so this project would be to fund the removal of all the existing sidewalk and replacement of it on both sides of the roadway to provide additional pedestrian walkways and access through that corridor.
All right, does council have any questions? At this point, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we approve resolution R-11-2025.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay.
Thank you, Jacob.
That motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor, council.
Item 13, discussion and possible action regarding appointment of a council member to the McGregor Economic Development Corporation to fill vacancy created by a prior council member. As you know, Andrew Henderson has had a seat with the EDC for and he's no longer sitting on this council, so I will entertain, if anybody would really love to sit on the EDC, let us know now. Huh? Okay, well, somebody give me a motion.
I make a motion, we approve Bonnie Mullins for EDC.
Okay, we have a motion to put Bonnie on the EDC board.
I'll
Is there-
second. Sorry.
There is a second. Yes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. That motion carries. I've never been so busy since I retired. So item 14, receive financials as of April 30th, 2025.
Mayor and council, and thank you for your time. So the financials this month are going to be over April 30th. It's just over halfway through the year, the fiscal year.
It may not be turned on.
Oh, okay, thank you. I may be, oh, there we go, okay. So April represents, like I said, 58.33% of the fiscal year. We can see some of our more major funds that we keep a closer eye on here. The general fund, utility fund, exchange, event center, and the airport. they're all hitting fairly close as expected. The general's at 71% of revenues. A lot of those come in earlier at the year. Expenses are at 51.4%, so we're doing good there. The utility fund is 67% of revenues, 44.4% of expenses. The exchange is at 45.8% of revenues and 59.8% of expenses, as expected. And we'll get a little bit of a better picture of that as we compare, because this is budget to actual, but we'll get a better picture of the exchange as we compare last year to this year. And the airport, the revenues are at 46.9% and the expenses are at 34.4%. So for the general fund, we see net cash flows up 722,000. Revenues are up 1.1 million and expenditures are up 402.7 thousand as compared to the same period last year. The revenue increase relates primarily to an increase in budgeted ad valorem taxes of 257.8 thousand and a budgeted transfer of $1 million from the industrial park for the sale of land. Expenditure increases are primarily due to a contractual payment to the Waco Industrial Foundation of 299.8 thousand and the timing of other contracted service payments, with the remainder relating to budgeted increases in personnel services. For the utility fund, net cash flow is 664.1 thousand higher than the previous year. Revenue is up 288,000. Expenditures are down 376,000. The revenue increase again relates to just a normal increase in water use and a receipt of insurance refunds in this year. Expenditure decreases are primarily due to a decrease in debt service expenses and a decrease in the timing of capital expenditures of 18,000, offset by an increase in personnel costs as budgeted. Okay, for the exchange, net cash flows are up 40.8 thousand compared to the same period last year. Revenues are up 5.7 thousand. Expenses are down 35.1 thousand. A lot of the reason those expenditures are down is because last year we had one-time Eclipse viewing event sponsorship costs that we don't have this year. And the remainder of the difference relates to just timing differences. And for the airport, net cash flows are down 39.4 thousand compared to the same period in 2024. Revenues are up 3.5 thousand, expenses are up 42.9 thousand. The increase in expenditures relate primarily to budgeted increases in personnel costs and costs of the terminal rehab projects, offset by a decrease in other budgeted capital expenditures. And then you'll see we've got the 4 funds that we've discussed there, but we also have the rest of the funds. We just get a snapshot of all their cash flows that were talked about previously. And in this slide, we see just a picture of cash in the bank, all of our cash accounts for the city. And we're going to go into a little bit more detail on the next slide here. We see the net cash in the bank is $8 million less than the same period last year, which is expected. Operating accounts are down $1.5 million. Pooled cash is down $3.9 million. Grants are down $758,000. Capital projects are down $838,000. And debt services are down $922,000 as compared to the same period last year. Okay, and here's our picture of where we are with sales taxes at April. So for the month of April, we're still seeing year to date. I mean, up to April, we're still seeing sort of comparable figures to the last 2 years. We are definitely monitoring fiscal year 25, the monies we receive from sales tax. We're monitoring that closely. We've already looked at May. We're waiting for June to come. We were hoping it would come before this, but But May, we've noticed, is 20,000 higher than April. So we do see a little bit of an increase there from last month, from the month we're talking about. And I believe that should do it. Do y'all have any questions for me or for Carolyn?
Council, any questions?
All righty. Thank y'all so much for y'all's time.
All right, at this time, it's 7:50. We're going to go into closed meeting. Closed meeting pursuant to Chapter 551 Texas Government Code in accordance with the authority contained in Section 551.071 Legal and Section 551.087 Economic Development. Don't need me to read all of it, do you? Okay. Under economic development, under Texas Government Code Section 551.087, discussion regarding economic development negotiations, including commercial or financial information received from a business prospect seeking to locate, stay, or expand in or near the city of McGregor, and to discuss economic development negotiations and/or to deliberate the offer of financial or other incentive to a business prospect.
We're gonna be doing real estate and economic development.
Okay. Real estate under section, Texas Government Code Section 551.072, discussion regarding sale of land to Project IP. right, it is 8:46. We're gonna go back into open session. Agenda item 6, discuss some possible action regarding approval of the sale of land and development agreement with Project IP.
Okay, are we ready? You need to say anything else?
I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion we approve the sale of land and the development agreement to the Tacoli authorities, Tacoli organization, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement after the attorney has finished the agreement. You can afford it.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. That motion carries. Item 17, announcements from the city manager.
I can't think of any more.
You've been talking enough here lately anyway. All right, 18, request from council.
Just thank you to city staff for, on behalf of the Bethlehem Christian Church for the Friday night event too. We thank you guys for that, so. I think that was about it. I had a question to ask about the pool and when it would open, which we kind of talked about, but I don't know if Cassie wants to touch on that real quick for the public. Or Kevin, sorry. Somebody.
So we did fire our previous contractor and had to move forward with a new contractor. We provided everything to Charlie and he'll be taking care of some of that paperwork. The new contractor is set to start the plaster tomorrow morning. We can fill the pool immediately afterwards, so the goal is still to be open Friday morning.
Awesome.
Still good to.
The goal is still to, I will have some better answers by the time Wednesday morning rolls around, but the goal is to be open Friday morning. Even with the rain, yep. So we will see how it goes.
Well, look.
Our cardboard boat regatta is going to be postponed until August. So I'll get new dates on that since you had planned to enter a boat.
All right.
Okay.
Well, now I have to do one to go against the
Yes,
mayor.
I think you should.
No, I'm just kidding.
You can always vote your daughter to row it for you.
She's lighter.
No, I think that was all. So thank you, Cassie.
All right, anyone else?
Thank you to the council for the appointment to the EDC. It's something that I've wanted to do since EDC started, that with my obligation to planning and zoning, I was never able to, but looking forward to it. Thank you.
All right. With that being said, it's 8:50. We'll go ahead and adjourn.
Thank y'all very much.